Hey, y'all. All right, so I'm going to start us off with a little history. You can't know about the future unless you think about the past, right? So going to do a little Black history. Can y'all hear me okay? Yes. All right, this poem is from my book, Be Trouble, and it's the last poem, and it's called Some Heroes Wear Their Do-Rags with the Capes Flapping, and I think that fits for Black History Month. This is how Black people have survived, part 1. The colonizers' greatest mistake was underestimating our power. All they needed to see was our talented tenth to know that we were too dangerous to be left unregulated, unfiltered, unconquered, and so they did, or so they thought. But we still here. Still David and his sling. Still Harriet and her rifle. Still John Henry with the hammer. Still Jesse Owens whooping the Nazis' ass. Still Ali whooping Uncle Sam's ass. Still Michael Jackson on the moon. Still Katherine Johnson with the math. Still Michael Jordan with the rock. Still Dr. King taking a knee. Still Kaepernick taking a knee. Still Rosa Parks taking a seat. Still Mahalia raining down heaven. Still Richard Pryor raising hell. Still Fred Hampton with the bullhorn. Still Octavia with the pen. Still Malcolm X headed to Mecca. Still Chadwick at the Mecca. Still Ta-Nehisi at the Mecca. Still Morrison at the Mecca. Still Zora when she's laughing, and still Zora when she's looking mean and impressive. Still Barack Obama on the Capitol steps. Still Kamala Harris on the Capitol steps. Still Audre Lorde reminding us that she is not free while any woman is unfree, even if her shackles look like Cuban links. Still Asada in exile. Still Langston in Paris. Still Baldwin in Paris. Still Josephine in Paris. The time for running has come to an end. Stokely Carmichael said, tell them all the scared Negroes are dead. We still T'Challa to the bullshit. We still Jesus on the third day. Surprise, as you can see, we are not dead. This is how Black people have survived, part 2. The colonizers' greatest mistake was underestimating our resilience. We've been minding our own business and mining something stronger than vibranium, reaping and sowing something better than King Cotton. We've been digging for something blacker and slicker than oil. What's understood don't need to be explained. Put some respect on our name. We are Wakanda. We ain't never been conquered. We been Wakanda. Death is better than bondage, but you can't chain us. And no matter how hard you try, you can't kill us all. And you can't beat this Black off us. And you can't shoot this Black off us. And your walls ain't high enough to keep us out. And your jails ain't tight enough to keep us in. February ain't long enough to get us right. We be Wakanda. Just because we be magic don't mean we don't be real. This ain't no superpower. This is Black power, and all power to the people. Yeah.
I don't like going after Bridgette. And it's 3 minutes? Ooh-wee. Okay. Hope is always my daughter and my grandson. So I'm going to sing just a quick portion of a children's Chumash honoring song and then go into the poem. And it's a double-jointed poem for those how many poets do we have in the house? Yes. Okay. So it's a poem that has that italicized portion, and then it's the regular portion. So it's a double-jointed poem. 2 things happening at once. We ya 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 yo, we ha ya ya yo, we ha ya ya yo, we ha yo, we ha yo, we ya yo. Watching her, it has been 18 years. Out of the corner of my eye, I thought, sun planted peach cream into us. I have to remember a tightly curled ponytail, shades covering her eyes, her shadowed hair. Buckrow Beach crumpled beneath us, the way sun creams down on untender touch of sandcastle builders, brown of her shoulders like a praise. She used to be that little black girl, ashened like sharks whispering reverence near us in a cool crystal deep, pushing grains into submission, a daughter's cusp eyes, folding salt and water into imaginary moat, young at the beginning of life's edge where she laughed at high yellow girl who, unaware, chipped bones of ancestors weighed, pushing prayers, threw her own hairpiece at another girl screaming at her friend, into old-timey eyes recognizing kin. They know my daughter, trifling curl of Afia's lips say, like rocking chairs and lamps that flicker out. Jellyfish slip up next to her, translucent with longing. At first lightning crack, at first thunder strike, desperate for the kiss, the flesh of her knowing, full in the mouth of a storm. I turn, no paper, no pencil. She is at once the girl child I raised, washed, kept. I turn, and the woman who will leave me behind, a space and then nothing between us. I look again and she is just my daughter. The salt rising, walking beside me, laughing. This moment, it has been 18 years, the last and the first, as sun-planted peach rain against our arms and lips. I memorize it thinking, I must remember. There was a poem here somewhere. Everything. Thank you.
Go, Jen! My genetics didn't give me good rhythm, so I learned it from my Afro-Panamanian dance teacher. She encouraged us passionately, eso, pa, 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 pa. As I listened to the Cuban beats, I fell in love with Spanish. So I flew to Chiapas to study like a good hippie. My community college Spanish got me there with how to order un café. And my Chinese cooking skills got me my host family's affection. They asked, please cook us authentic chow mein. So I went all over town to find ingredients and learned words not in the textbook, like jengibre. So I served them some chow mein, and they politely ate with confusion, and finally asked, ¿Por qué no cocinas con nopales? Then I learned their local Mexican chow mein came with cactus. So with my elementary Spanish, I say, no pienso que hay nopales en China. We had a good laugh. Dance and chow mein are my passports to bond beyond language. Ya taisikfana? Bailamos. Even through the gray fog stands a silver lining, tone the same, but lighting brightly shines a highway. Lead me out of darkness, hang a hat for hopeful passage to a new home. Stars lift off the mute weight. Take me to the river where the reflections shine, doubling pure the sure light. Magnify the way out. To the ocean's endless open options grant me dreams, imagined fancy, possible in this life. This is an homage to Maya Angelou. Still I stand, not like a tree, the way my mother told me, but like a dandelion, more scrappy, wild and free, surprising people and harsh cold of impossibilities, I incubate in disguise, underestimated as a little thing, and spread a blanket of my tribe to bloom in unfriendly fields, to blow your mind, to bend your soul. Season after season, still I speak, undeniably as dandelion in fields of gold.
Thank you, Jen. That was Jen Cheng, everyone. Thank you, Jen. And now up next we have, please give a big welcome to Lisbeth Coiman.
Get myself together. I need to dry my hair and get myself together, the poet mumbled into the phone with the guttural voice of a dream, rolling into the bathroom to choose a pair of dark eyes, which she pushed slowly into their sockets by rolling them with one side of the head against the counter. But the poet had to take them out again when she realized that the right eye was in the left side, looking inward into their brain, where ideas danced in frenzy, spilling through the ear canals into the sink until she decided to start with her hands instead. By attaching them to the wrist bone, screwing them counterclockwise, hearing for the click, on time to circle back to the eyes, then the ears, and finally the mouth, which she kept in a chatterbox, of course. But not before she flicked her feet in place, which she had already left inside the shoes the night before, along with the nose positioned inside the concave side of a face mask. When she had attached all the sensory organs, she tightened the bolts to shut the brain cavity where marbles rattle inside against each other. After collecting the hair from the clothesline, folding it and smoothing the edges with her fingers, she placed the silky strands on top of her head and then opened the top drawer of her chester where she kept magnetic eyelashes, acrylic nails, silicone breast, all of which she applied with crazy glue, of course, before slipping into a sweater dress, proceeding to close the door behind her before she walked into the street, ready to meet her mark in front of the open mic, despite all the noise in her head.
Thank you, Lisbeth. Thank you, Lisbeth. Up next, we have Flint. Please welcome Flint.
Well, in order to get to joy and hope and a better future, we've got to start elsewhere, like in Bronson Canyon, 7,875 feet from the car. 100 hikes here, and I've never seen him before. You're pretty. And I know he isn't talking to the hummingbird zippering the air just behind my left ear. Pretty, 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 pretty. In his backpack, I imagine, peanut butter and jelly sandwich, Marlboro Reds, and a crumpled pack of Benson & Hedges menthol 100s. 3 changes of clothes with the underwear turned inside out, twice. A bottle of rock gut with one last swallow looking for an open mouth. A stuffed bunny, a hammer. Pretty, 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 pretty girl. The hummingbird opens her ruby throat. The instructions lace my shoes, and the air swells like a lung. In praise of 2 hawks fucking. I'm running the left shoulder of Runyon Canyon, looking for rabbit and owl and hawk and hummingbird and coyote, while dawn clears her throat over the sleeping city, and the light is ready to fall in thick waves like a girl unpinning her hair and shaking her head. I do this every morning, enter this state of grace like stepping into a Skinner box and pushing the bar. Every day I push the bar again and again, because sometimes Some days, a pellet of rapture drops. Rabbit leaps and darts and plunges into the scrub. Owl screams and sighs. Hawk shrieks and floats above my head. Hummingbird dazzles and darts and plunges. Coyote appears and disappears. Skin and bones bundled under a rough coat. This morning, a pellet fell. Then another. One hawk. Then another. Hurling themselves at each other, as if brawling, as if the answer to any question you might ask is this feathered body. As if they were trying to take each other by the throat and rip open their bodices. I have never seen such exquisite pornography, this ballet of shrieking lust, and oh, what is there to do but kneel and turn the pages of the sky, servant to this joy. I'm going to close with an untitled micropoem. Today I saw a hummingbird churning up a bright, tiny joy out of thin air. Thank you.
Thank you, Flint. Everyone, please welcome West Hollywood City Poet Laureate Emeritus, Charles Flowers.
Hi, thank you all for coming out for poetry. It's always a good time. I'm going to read 2 poems. This first one is for my husband, Constantine, whose birthday is tomorrow. And this is an early Valentine, believe it or not. So it's his favorite poem. So. The Way We Were. The East Village glows with slush in early February. It's Monday and the week seems endless at the 2nd Avenue laundromat. A trace of cardamom and cumin cuts into the warm, soapy smell of love, which hangs over everything and everyone here, even the gym queen who pouts while his boyfriend sorts their Calvins. When the radio segues to news, the Latina laundress stops making change to reach for the dial. A sad, clear voice fills the room, which seems to sigh as the present slips away. A girl with cropped green hair and silver nose ring looks up from Portrait of a Lady to stare at the dryer, thinking of the farm in Wisconsin where her mother hangs her sheets out to dry in the wind. 2 waiters from the Indian restaurant across the street stop folding their pile of burgundy tablecloths to smile at one another. The pouty boy stands up to tickle his boyfriend, who's lip-syncing, eyes closed, remembering their first kiss. And I, with my voice, am projecting nostalgia onto strangers, willing the present back to a memory of wanting to be held by my father, my desire unnamed, before boys, before I glimpse the way I would be. What can heal the churning shame of childhood? Only the future forgives, the image of yourself beyond the present, which allows you to smile at strangers, listening to Barbara, whose voice carries me into the winter night, whole and alone and humming. Thank you. This next poem is about something I encountered when I moved to California. It's called Jacaranda. It's late May and jacaranda petals cover King's Road, small purple blossoms across the asphalt and sidewalks, each car's shine blotted and stained. Yet their beauty cannot be denied. On my first encounter with their purple light, I fell into the land of Dr. Seuss, where bright trees and a talking cat can teach a boy a lesson. Imagine myself in a forest of purple. I wish, where melancholy Sondheim sings to me, I wish more than anything. And I am back in Tennessee, finding my mother alone on our screen porch, listening to the summer night and the heart's litany to be single, to be married, to have a child. My heart was just beginning to dream its own tale, a prince to rescue me from a Baptist dragon. I wish Today, a purple tree and plangent show tune remind me how the heart endures. Its chorus of desire never abandons me, season after season.
Thank you, Charles. Up next, we have one half of a dynamic duo, current City of Altadena Poet Laureate and badass poet Peter J. Harris.
Thank you. On sidewalks in the marketplace, as humble pedestrians, we are talk, blending language to our bidding, grammar, syntax muffled with common terms, common signs, common meanings. Up under, shuddering, shattering, we are acoustic genius moaning, wordless, surging promises, throbbing autobiography, something ferocious, something delicious. Let other people dwell on their helpless surfaces, kneel and pray to hear the drumming between us. Cover the sounds circling from our fluent and chemical skin. Their protocol, their hesitation complicated by our patent leather disdain. Our promenade is syncopated teasing, cunning beats scratched from suspense amplify our multiplication. Other people go insane, surging and swooping to our fandango. Still beg to hum the music emanating from our deep and wordless jam. Wrong ears burn at the music we compose. Sun-blind spies trafficking gossip about us. Wind sweeps away the memories of people who mean us harm. Mountains crumble warnings to any with prying disposition. Alone, within our consecrated circumference, whirlpools leap from a cappella proverbs, falsetto water bubbles, ferocious drumming, delicious between us. Our reverberating momentum is a choir at rest.
Thank you, Peter. Up next, we have Reuben, Tihi, Hayslett. Reuben.
Okay, now for some fiction. This is from my unpublished science fiction novel. It takes place on a dockyard on the moon in the year 2020 or 2247. Where'd you learn how to do this? I ask as he starts assembling the probe. I told you, the colleges, he says. Tigray plugs the unmarked canister from the kitchen into the canister he already had on the table. I never really did figure out what that ingredient was. The other one is a concentrated form of swoop that gets pumped into the air to prevent low gravity sick. We breathe it in all the time, but in low doses. No, I mean, who taught you? You didn't invent the drug. A friend, he says, mixing a little of the propane into the pull packets. Who was just a friend, just a friend. Tigray stops making the probe, sets everything down, and then studies my face. Are you jealous? My face flushes, but that's not it. No, I say, I'm curious. That word again. Tigray says and turns his attention back to making probe. What's wrong with being curious? I tell him. You said sometimes you thought you imagined me. I used to imagine all sorts of things about you. What? Tigray says, but he doesn't look up. We all thought you died, Tigray, and that was shitty to hold on to. Keep his eyes off the probe and back onto me. And now you're here. We're both here. But you don't want to ask me, and I can't be curious? Tigre takes a long sigh. Okay, he says, how did you end up under the contract? No, you first. Who was your friend who taught you probe? His name was Hawk. He was the only other dark-skinned guy at the colleges when I got there. Really? It's only just a little bit better now, Tigre says. The masters were all old white men, and you needed to get one to learn under them, which meant a lot of competing. And Hawk was really good at it. You know, if you didn't get under a master, you didn't get anything. Food, nothing. The first couple of years were really stressful. Tigre floats his eyes up to the corner of the room, but I remember that gesture. He's motioning towards the scar lines on his forehead. But Hawk just breezed right through somehow. It never seemed like he worried about anything. I asked him about it one night, and he snuck me into the vivarium. He studied biology, I studied history, obviously. And he showed me all his gear. He was stealing from every master, fucked them dry and hard asleep, and then started taking things from them. Little things, not enough to notice. He said, you gotta have something over them. I say, the masters? The masters, the white boys, all of them. You gotta have something special that only you can have. What was your thing? The special thing only you had? Me? Nothing. I don't believe that. No, it's true. Tigre starts to fill the 2 pole packets with the other canisters. For a while, I didn't have anything. Then I had secrets. Learning history is just learning secrets. But when I felt like I had nothing, like all these white men choosing younger and younger white boys over me, I had probe. The 2 pole packets are done, and Tigre flicks them up and down between his fingers, one in each hand. He looks at me and says, are you ready for this?
Thank you, Tihi. And can we get a round of applause for everyone who has performed yet tonight, please? Thank you. Yes. Now is the time where I say thank you. I say thank you to the City of West Hollywood for putting this together. I say thank you to the UCLA Extension Writers Program, which is a financial sponsor of this series. I know many of you study and or teach with the extension, so it's great to see that community coming together. Thank you to Book Soup, which is also a supporter of this series, to Poets and Writers, through their mini grant program, are making funds available to some of the participating authors. Bookshop.org and the Los Angeles Review of Books. Those are our sponsors and media partners, and we are very excited to have them here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now more poets. So, up next, we have Traci Kato-Kiriyama.
All right, stand here. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's for you.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. All right. I'm going to read 2 pieces. Los Angeles is such a Scorpio. No, don't try to convince me with its Virgo assignment at birth. You want to know how I know LA is a Scorpio? I/you. You live here long enough and then travel out of town, then you, likely you at some point, definitely I, meet someone, usually somewhere not here, in the company of that person's long time or born and raised living place. And as soon as they ask, where'd you come in from? I can barely say Los Angeles, and there they go. People make all kinds of assumptions about us, passing judgment brimming with accusation, fixed ideas, and increasingly negative narratives. And then you realize a half hour into the conversation that they've never spent more than a weekend or 2, more than a Disneyland trip, or stop in Santa Monica, or the Venice Boardwalk, or Sunset Strip, or maybe Chinatown, but really just Far East Plaza. Nowhere anywhere close to the bones of our arena. Nope, nope, nope. Just like that time, an ex had screamed into the phone upon learning I'm a Scorpio that they don't fuck with Scorpios ever. What's your sign anyway, San Francisco? I love San Francisco, but lots of debates with them, Note to newcomer, Los Angeles Drives, Part 1, and I'll skip to the end of this. If you watch too many films like Crash or LA Story, You might never believe there are entire volumes of less spoken truths on driving in this city. I'll tell you one story. My friend Sehba takes care of a whole bunch of young people on the job over an hour from home, where he takes care of a whole lot of family with his family. That 1 hour to work and back with his CDs, and yes, people still use CDs, and he has his special stack, curated better than your Spotify playlist. That is his personal den, his private karaoke box, his time. There's the other side of road rage, where I catch up, conference call, rehearse lines, head write, take naps between meetings, do accounting, pull over or not and actually write, public radio, podcast, audiobook through traffic. In LA, you have to get crafty with the bullshit. This is sometimes my only me time. This is road joy.
Thank you, Tracy. Up next, we have Lester Graves Lennon.
Thank you. Thank you, Cody. Thank you, Mike Che, WeHo Reads, and the city of West Hollywood. Thank you, poets, and most importantly, thank you, audience, for being here. I'm going to read 2 poems. The first is a haiku. We adopted our daughter when she was 3 days old. We had tried 4 times. 4 times it had fallen through. Each time it had been a girl. The 5th time it happened, it was a girl. Something in the air. When she was 7, she was playing in our backyard with a friend, and part of a conversation was overheard. Last spring, her friend asked how being adopted felt. She answered, lucky. And now today at 29, tomorrow in New York City, she has her off-Broadway directorial debut. This is the poem I wrote to her in 2015 when she graduated from college, a theater major. Today, Megan Elizabeth Lennon graduates from college. Proud becomes leading word. You make us proud. Loud is our chorus note. We must be loud. Congratulations, yes, congratulations. Celebrations disturb with celebrations. We see the spotlight embrace your grace. We see your best scenes preparing to be seen. Choices are fires frenetic with your choices. Voices tempt brilliantly. Sit with calm voices, sifting your possibilities. The sifting, lifting from focused flames, patterns for lifting light sparked in you to glowing. Nourish your light, write for you when you will. You are a writer. Theater is your domain. Theater, making of shifting mysteries, mask maker strengthened while stumbling, directing new steps, strengthened, opened by stagecraft wands as we are opened, confessing fears hard to control, confessing blessing fought for last word. You have our blessing.
Thank you, Lester. Malia. Malia. Sorry.
Hello, everyone. Oop, spot. Okay. Thank you. So I'm a fiction writer, and fiction writers don't read like poets, but we do our best. And I'm actually reading a speculative nonfiction tonight. It's called The Space Between You. You dump in ground beans. Your spirits jump a little, dance a jig. The coffee maker burbles signs of life, pours forth the scent of crushed earth, roasted sweet, dark elixir. You sit together, your friend and you, silently in 2 chairs set in a spot of sun in the yard. Relief rushes through you as a bitter river of heat runs down your throat. You are no fool. You believe in boundaries, not walls exactly, more like the acequia or arroyo, channels human or nature-made, or perhaps a good old-fashioned barbed wire fence one can see through but not pass. To the side, to the side, to the side, you wave them by. There were others here with you in the past, living, breathing ones, but always the space between you. You, nostalgic for the time before it was decided for sure which side would win, back when winning was thought to be, one wouldn't blame you for it, or maybe one would. The thing about winning is, everything that was lost is stored in the cloud. Those gathering thunderheads play tricks, make you think of death, yours and theirs, how you belong to the ones who have passed over, how you try to belong to yourself, but they are always singing their siren songs, catching your ears like a whistle to the dog. Soup that soaks deep into the marrow of bones. They know a little broth won't save you, at least not today. What string tethers this? What is it? Soul? Clearly, the night bird travels on updrafts of unconscious exhales, sighs that remember what it means to inexplicable places described never, other than to say that they are familiar buildings of stairs, passages, and rooms. What happens there lingers in a body long after it has awakened invisibly. Flying is a possibility, as is drowning, as is falling from a great height. After falling from a great height, after drowning, after flying, after meeting a lover without a face who knows the secret corners of a heart, the crack in the sidewalk is a mirror. The bright green weed growing out of it knows what a body is afraid to remember. The horse a body is charged with taking care of is trapped in a stall on the other side of a muddy pit of snakes. There is always a choice. Kiss the snake, free the horse, press the wild rose into the body until it disappears. What is it made of? Once upon a time, a body. The body knew there were things called stars. In the dark, it gazed up at them through something called eyes. But no matter how hard it looked, it couldn't understand. It couldn't understand. Later, alone, after dark has settled around the 2 chairs, one empty, one still occupied, cigarette in hand, tobacco smoke, an offering, winds its way to where your ancestors sit on clouds of dark matter and spit stars. You are a creature of the urban wilderness, an amalgam of a shining presence, the puma moving silently after prey in the moonlight. You are nothing more than a chunk of wood hacked out of a tree trunk that sits and waits to rejoin the rest of itself and does not rot but hardens to stone. Petrified. You walk in birdsong, holding memories of times you stepped outside of your mirrored prison in your cupped hands, water that sometimes flows and sometimes does not. They feed your footsteps as you track the progression of moons and suns and seasons, sparks on the horizons of the past. Ghosts and real-life boogeymen lurk around the edges of your vision, angels. Sometimes you try to rouse yourself from a nightmare to find that you are already awake, gasping to draw breath. It hurts. Sleep. A demon sits heavy on your chest and sings the sweetest lullabies. You wait for morning.
Thank you. Thank you. And next up, Thea Pueschel.
Thank you. I was a little panicked because I don't really do joy, so this is joy adjacent. This is from a creative nonfiction piece called The Chemistry of Exposure. I placed the camera on the upper shelf, and my photo partner flipped the light off. I struggled to pop the cartridge on the 35mm roll. Their hand brushed mine, and I felt warmth shoot through the dark and spark my 16-year-old hormones as they handed me the cylindrical tank in the pitch-black closet. I spooled the film, hooked it on the reel, then spun it in my hand until the plastic strip held fast to its shape. I slipped the reel into the development tank and snugly attached the lid. I knew that the wire spool would allow the chemicals to touch every surface and expose the silver halides. My lips were dry with anticipation. The pungent, metallic odor elicited my desire like the olfactory straw of gasoline. We stumbled our way out of the dark into the low light of the development sink. A rhythmic thud of eliminating air bubbles came from the groups already in various stages of development. It was our turn. Our hands touched as I passed them our precious assignment. I read the poster board on the wall. My body thrummed with curiosity and lust. Their brown, blue, or green eyes challenged mine in the light of artificial dusk. If we were lucky, there would be something there, a similitude of perception. Their reel sat below my own in the canister, touching. Developer, pour, tap bottom, agitate, 30 seconds, invert 10, duration of time, drain. We took turns. Stop bath, pour, agitate 30 seconds, sit 30, empty, I stopped it. Fixer, pour, agitate 30 seconds, invert, every minute for 5, drain. They fixed it. Wash, run tap water through the tank 5 minutes, empty, I washed it. Wetting agent, pour in 30 seconds, empty, they wetted. With the canister back in my hand, I unscrewed the lid and slid my reel out. I handed the container over to them. We touched, but the muse shut off our electricity. I was at the apex of my nascent state, an elective, possibly turned métier. They flipped the canister upside down, and their reel fell into their large, smooth hand. Slowly, I unfurled the 1 1/4 foot of film, 12 exposures, possibly 14, and allowed the empty spool to clatter into the industrial sink. My heart fluttered in my chest like bats coming out at sunset. I felt it shudder-stop to life with the possibility of light and mystery. My partner, dressed in hyper-color clothes, smiled at me through the haze of my creation. I could not see them beyond the black and white magic I held in my hand. I ran the squeegee down the strip of plastic and saw patterns take shape, bringing into existence the negative that I was positive I had ruined. They tried to talk to me, but my passion burned the sound of their words as soon as they hit my ears, transfixed by my success. I longed to print, to test my metal at focus and cropping, to dodge and burn, to manipulate and form an image of my own. I had painted with light and chemicals. I was God. This was Genesis. Fiat Lux.
Thank you, Thea. And up next, we have Luivette Resto.
Thank you. So joy for me is pizza, even though I'm lactose intolerant. I go with God every time. Romantic arguments, the pizza. I want to argue past midnight, Chicago versus New York style. You'd politic for its deep dish depth, fork and knife necessity, the 45 minutes it takes to cook. You'd compare it to lovemaking and say, you don't rush delicious things. As you tuck a loose strand of hair behind my ear. I'd rebut with the portability of a slice. I'll take us back to geometry and spit bars about angles and symmetry, present counterpoints about crust to sauce ratio, and the science behind semolina flour. All you need is your hands to enjoy the experience, no extra equipment needed. I'd say with a Cheshire cat smile, shall we agree to disagree? How cliche. Let's keep arguing until one of us gives in. Joy for me is to be Puerto Rican. What I know. I only know to be Puerto Rican. What I eat, what I hear, what I try to dance, what I see in the mirror, first thing in the mirror, and the body I lay to rest at night. It's the first line in my bio. It's aguas buenas and having to explain to folks where it is on the map. It was the first time I read a Victor Hernandez Cruz poem and felt less alone. It's the pasteles and the assembly line at Christmas, how I was only trusted as a child with cutting el hilo. It's the mezclita sandwiches my abuela packed me for lunch and all of the New Yorican kids looking on with disgust. It's the bacalaitos my mom makes from scratch while I buy the ones from the box. It's the rellenos de papa my tia perfectly made with imperfect hands. It's the sorullos I make myself on random rainy LA nights when I'm missing the smell of my grandparents' living room. It's el gran combo on New Year's Eve, watching my mom and tia dance like water as I try to catch the rhythm like fireflies in a jar. I only know to be Boricua, this caramel skin, this fast-talking tongue, this attitude, this side-eye, this code switching, this uncertainty when I speak Spanish. The island, like my colonized body, fighting every day to be free and liberated. Thank you.
Please welcome to the microphone the other half of that dynamic duo that I mentioned, the City of Altadena Poet Laureate, Carla Sameth.
Thank you. Thank you. Trying to be mindful of this blue line. Okay. Sachet. We do a short walk this time across Belvedere and back in our northwest Pasadena neighborhood. I want to walk miles, but my hurting hips say otherwise, feeling as if Shakira were here singing My Hips Don't Lie. Only mine are not swinging like hers. I wish Dakota, our St. Bernard, would teach me how to sashay, move her hips so sexy and gracefully, big and beautiful, that girl. She lives for sniffing and finding people, Milo says. I tell my beloved, she found us and we were rescued. We walk on home. Vista. I tell people I'm an 18-year-old butch, a boy trapped in my 58-year-old body, or a 20-something sober young man like my son's friends in recovery who gather around him on his 21st birthday. Then I too can say things like cool as fuck or even be that. One of my son's young friends, a girl, says, "Oh, look, your mom, she's such a mom, so cool, so beautiful," tells me I've wanted to meet you, and I want you for a daughter-in-law, I think. Though she is just a friend who loves my son as many do. A young couple arrives with their baby who I greedily borrow. Look how the baby looks at your mother. I wanted so many more. So sure of that thing, wanting to be a mother. Only one precious one lived, 1 out of 8 pregnancies. But the view changes. And I can't quantify my unstoppable gratitude for my son until I die or perhaps lose my mind. Does my mom still feel gratitude? We think we see joy slowly lighten her face when she recognizes one of us, her children, grandchildren, caregivers. A lone piece left of her. Sometimes her smile matches ours like a gurgling baby grin, mirrors a delighted audience. Yesterday I noticed she still gulps her coffee the same way. She who talked and mothered so much more than we cared to listen. Today she stares blankly, offering a surprise sentence. Yes, it does. Or, that man certainly is repulsive, about that buffoonish, dangerous bully who's now the president. Years before, when she could talk, she pointed to Senator Obama. See that man? Someday he'll be president. But then the view changed. Someday I may see some of what my mom saw in her twilight years, fairies coming to rescue her, or bad boys, abusive men that lurk in the dark, who she thought she married after her father died. Television, movie characters, Booth from Bones, Mr. Darcy. Perhaps my delusions will also be purely my own. Or will I worry myself to my grave like my dad, even though Parkinson's hammered the nail? Today the sky beams pink, gracious clouds. The sun rises outside my kitchen window. I'm not usually up this early. Sweet surprise. The view after the storm that blasted through our old scoundrel, this city of angels. Even as I age, I can see the view change. Me in my own body, loving my life as it is. embracing my South African wife, who my son calls a badass. Perhaps I'll plant one more tattoo on my 58-year-old vessel, but not on the breast, since it will soon meet the stomach. The view changes.
Thank you, Carla. Up next, we have Sehba Sarwar.
Thank you, Cody, and thank you, West Hollywood. And I just want to say today we are talking about joy, but my mind is on Turkey, on the earthquake, and I'm thinking of, so I have to set that aside and be present here. But I do want to say that I gave Cody a list of organizations we can donate to, and I'm definitely going to be sending some money. And I, like Thea said, am mostly a prose writer, fiction, nonfiction, and I leap into poetry when I want to just be in the moment, which is right now. So this poem is called Eating Poetry, and it was written during COVID-19. I float out of bed, open my computer screen, and one by one I yank a key to pop into my mouth and crunch like a corn chip. Each mouthful draws me into my laptop's ocean and its 13-inch screen. Like Alice, I spiral down the tunnel, push past my Zoom calls, my syllabi, my modules. My hair antenna wave outside the screen like grasshopper feelers with crunchy taste locked into my mouth. I find my story and my poems. I shake my hips and dance and sing my song. By the time I reach the last letter H, my body is ensnared inside my monitor. I curl into a fetus and fall asleep, my heart racing, the keys still clicking. Thank you. This poem is to my daughter, who is now 18, about to go off to college, and this was written when she was 2 years old. My 2-year-old daughter Minal at the zoo with the giraffe and a rabbit conejo. Minal talks to the giraffes. She nods her head and says hello, but her imagination is captured by the conejo, who races between the giraffe's legs that stretch into the clouds like palm trees. She points, claps, and laughs more as the conejo devours grass laid out like a velvet carpet for the giraffe, who is too busy staring at the sky to see what is being consumed beneath his stomach. Thank you. And this last poem I wrote probably at 4 a.m. I was in the city of Galveston, lying by the water, and I was thinking of my home city, Karachi. Close to the water. Close to the water is where I want to be. Salt air laces my hair, licks my lips, and binds me to oceans I will walk to reach home. Thank you.
Thank you, Sehba. If you sign up for the Bookswell newsletter, I will send the information on the organizations that Sehba sent to me. Next, we have a few readers remaining, so thank you for being here. We are also selling books, including a book by our next poet, who was the City of Los Angeles Poet Laureate, Lynne Thompson.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Cody and to Mike and to WeHo and WeHo Reads and to all of you for being here. I'm going to read 2 poems, this first being a poem of pride, and I can't think of any place other than West Hollywood that I'd rather read it. To blackness. As it happens, I have never tired of blackness. It's Márquez, Garvey, Raisin in the Sun, Tuskegee Airmen. It's Strivers Row and Liver Lips. It's Dred Scott, Freedman's Bureau, Scott Joplin. Some say black is swarthy, gloomy, evil, fiendish. But we all spring Fulani, Wolof. their cowrie shells and crobo beads sewn into our fading fabric. I don't know much about my native blackness. My daddy, he say Igbo, the only word he can give me. But it's the only word I need to get the old folks to remembering that in Igbo, ututu is morning, abali is night, and in any mirror, my ihu, my face, is always black. And I'll close with this one that I wrote because I was sad, but then writing it made me happy. A sorceress strolls new grass. I am neither mother nor turquoise neckwear, but you are such sweet people, such new potatoes, and there is much for me to tell you. That bishops joyride in the dead of night, that blue's favorite color is blue and earth is just a gaudy paragraph. And though I am ripe as November, I can tell you, no sorceress ever abandons midday, and a sculptor is always better in a waterbed. Of course, I'm vainglorious with all my knowing and croaking because all of you are writing your own book of migration, and without warning, I feel useless as an empty valise. What you know makes the bandicoot fly, and you converse in flamingo and seashell, smell like smoke and rapscallions. You are tambourines in the stewing pot, a crucible of symbols. Being fresh as new grass, you inspire me to astonish, then gloat, to beg no pardon, then begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynne. And up next, Hazel, Kight, Witham.
I feel like we need like a cento with lines from all 18 readers. Just putting it out there. I think we can make it happen. So good to be here tonight. West Hollywood was the first place in 1985 at the Pride Parade that I saw my family celebrated out in public. So tonight I'm going to read a poem in honor of my two mamas, and it's called Quonset Hut of Love. Was what my mamas called each other in the early years. Quonset huts. Prefabricated temporary military structures, 170,000 or so built in World War II, turned song of sweetness between them. Those two women who turned to women before women loving women turned chic. Quonset huts. Corrugated, galvanized half domes, unassuming from the Quonset outset, requiring no skilled labor to assemble, shippable anywhere. Later, the surplus found new homes in countless places, semicircular, rust-resistant, flexible interior spaces. Something that could pop up and protect as needed wherever. I never knew where they got this term of endearment from. Never asked in the depths of childhood's thrum what made these two women, one Brooklyn born, one Texas torn, sing songs of corrugated galvanized half domes. My mamas, my maps, my refuge, my home. All bare-boned, basic, rust-resistant, flexible, spacious, all peace and love and war zone ready. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. And now it is my great honor to invite up the current City of West Hollywood Poet Laureate, Brian, Sonia Wallace, come on up.
Thank you, Cody, and it's great to see everyone here. You're here. Hooray. The theme for tonight, of course, being Road to Joy. I'd be remiss if I didn't close off a night in West Hollywood without sharing a poem with you all about human pups and fisting. Fisting is pretty self-explanatory, I think, but some people in the audience may not know what human pups are. I wonder, does anyone here know what a pup is? What's that? Would you define it for us? No, absolutely not. Is anyone up to the challenge? It's sort of a BDSM thing. It's people who dress as dogs, but in sort of a leather way. This one's about a dear friend of mine. All of the millennial queer poets are sick of writing about death. We're writing about our friends. And I can give you his OnlyFans after the poem if you're interested. The title of this poem is Best in Show. At the tail end of a particularly Catholic visit home to Mom, Stephen inflated a balloon inside himself and decided on his pup name, Apollo, the pagan god of light. He'd race home from the nurse's station where he worked to fire hose his insides with a douche, fill a Gatorade bottle with silicone lube. Boys were waiting. Stephen stayed loose. Fists were still exciting, but had gotten easy if he was being honest. Last week, a man got his whole foot in Stephen's colon lining. Soft earth on bare toes. Apollo, whose body this really was, more god or dog than man, yelped and whimpered, head lancing back to lick at stars. Sometimes, at the nurse's station or on the volleyball court, Stephen would reflexively bark. At home in bed with his new husband, Dom Daddy Sir, the tired boy growled his contentment and nuzzled his godhead in. They slept that way until the sun rose. Doesn't transformation always happen like this? Gradually, then all at once, expanding from the inside. Under blue scrubs, Stephen always wore a collar with a dog tag in the shape of a bone. And I wonder, what beast do you hide under your work shirt? How wide does the God in you extend? Maybe it's not something for our mothers to understand. This line of men here for the ritual, this hunger to be everyone's good boy, to be the best boy, to be. Thank you.
Thank you. I got some chills there. And some other unmentionable feelings. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. This was joyous. It was marvelous. This is the start of the season. Our next event is on February 22nd. It is online only. It features Steph Chaw, Walter Mosley, Jordan Harper, Kelly Garrett, and Joe Ide. And I am so excited about it. It's going to be fun. So all of our events are on here. Join us. We'll be next in person again, kind of up that way. There's like a deck up there where we will be lounging with poets, including Brian and Jen and Stephen Rains and many of those you saw today in Charles. So that's coming up soon. This is a goodbye. but not farewell forever, because Mike's going to tell you about parking validation and other important things. But it's so great that you were here. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody, and thank you to all the readers and the photographers. Really, you brought so much joy here for us, so thank you so much. Someone dropped their ticket, so check your pockets, and if you haven't gotten your validation yet, it's on the wall. We'll help you validate if you need. But I validate you all right now. You're wonderful. Thank you for coming. Please join us for the next event.